Greetings. Today we continue in part 3 of Daniel's Love of Truth from Daniel chapter 10, verses 1 through 3. Now we want to pay very close attention to the message of Ezekiel 14, verses 14, 16, 18, and 20. If these three great heroes of the faith were to live and testify truth in the current generation experiencing judgment that Daniel and Ezekiel were contemporary with, it states that no one would be delivered from the judgment of God except these three men. 3 times it emphasizes not even their own children would be delivered by the righteousness which was demonstrated by their fathers. That is a very sad commentary upon that generation. But I fear that the same commentary applies to our generation also. It applied to the generation which God delivered from Egypt. Only 2 people over 20 years of age, Joshua and Caleb, at the time of the Exodus, entered into the Canaan land after 40 years of wilderness wandering because the majority did not believe and did not obey God. Isaiah 6:3 says, "And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable." We come to the New Testament in 1 Timothy 3:1. It says, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come." And we should ask, why will perilous times come? Well, the answer is given. For men will be, shall be, will become. See, perilous times will come about because of what men will become, and a list follows. They will become self-lovers, money lovers, boasting ones, proud ones, injuriously speaking ones, not obeying parents ones, not thankful ones, not being holy ones, not being rightly affectioned ones, not keeping covenant ones, falsely accusing ones, without self-control ones, bullying ones, despising the doing good ones, betraying ones, rash ones, arrogant ones, pleasure-loving ones, all in contrast to not being God-loving ones, the one thing that they're supposed to be. Self-lovers, it's all about me and what I want. Money lovers, it's all about more and more money. Pleasure-loving ones, it's all about what makes me happy. Not being God-loving ones. We have a hymnal that's labeled "In Spirit and in Truth." And it's been replaced by contemporary praise and worship slideshows and what often could be characterized as services that promote in flesh and falsehood. I really would like to nail something down here. The word used in the Septuagint for passion is a word which usually has a negative connotation in the New Testament. The word is Strong's 1939. For example, it's the very word that John used in 1 John 2:16 that was translated "the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes" in the trilogy that includes the pride of life. I think we should let this concept sink deep down into our hearts and our minds for just a moment. Daniel lusted after truth like a drunk lusts after another drink. Daniel lusted after truth like a addict lusts after another hit. Now, I could add to this list ad nauseum with one falsehood after the other which has been substituted for truth. In the Old Testament, we find that God identifies himself as Jehovah, the fountain of living waters. Jesus is the water of life, but he's been forsaken for the polluted waters of lying prophets. I didn't have to think long about this most used catchphrase of our spiritual generation about contemporary worship and praise and worship.